Hey guys, before the video starts, I just want to jump on the camera really quick and just say thank you to all of you guys that watch my videos. This video was a lot of fun to make. Episode 3, the long-awaited episode 3. Well, I don't know if it's long-awaited, but long-awaited for me, episode 3 of my ranking series, where I'm going to be giving more thoughts on the Eminem show and my kind of thoughts on it now. And I'll be comparing it to other albums that I've reacted to, but more about that in the video. But yeah, I really appreciate all you guys' support like always. And the Eminem show, more thoughts. Let's go. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Rap Ranks 1, the channel where we celebrate music together. And on this video, I'll give my current thoughts on Eminem's album, The Eminem Show, which I reacted to about 6 months ago. And like always, I try and stay respectful, open-minded, and honest about the album because I have a really high level of respect for every artist, no matter what type of music they put out or what level or status they're at, because it's hard, it's hard facing levels of criticism and putting out music like that. So, I always try and stay respectful and honest, and that's kind of who I try and be in. And also, everything I say in this video is just my opinion. We all have different experiences with albums and different life experiences and different, ways we listen to music. So of course, my own thoughts on listening to an album are going to be different from yours. So, this is just a lot of fun, and it kind of helps me concentrate my opinions on albums. So it's just a really fun way to do it that I came up with. I split this video into 3 different segments: my current thoughts on the album, answering questions or comments that were below in the comments of my reaction video, and comparing this album to other albums that I've already reacted to and I've done comparison videos to. And those albums include Joe Budden's Moon Music 1, the Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem, J. Cole's KOD, and ATLiens by Outkast. If you want to skip around the video, timestamps are in the description. So without further ado, let's get into it. We all have, gaps in our music knowledge. And for me, one of the biggest ones was Eminem, because I was always a listener of Eminem's music, but more of a surface level listener. I didn't go deep into his albums or anything like that. So that's why when I started this YouTube channel, I was like, oh man, it'll be great to get into Eminem's music and start with one of his albums. And I started with the Marshall Mathers LP, and it was really different, than I'd expected. And Eminem, the way he rapped and what he rapped about was different than what I'd expected. And this album was really similar. Going into the album, I think Eminem did a really good job creating an album that was very different from his previous, the Marshall Mathers LP. I thought his flows were really different. I thought he tried to switch them up and do different things with them. And even the way he approached his content, I thought was a little different on this project than the Marshall Mathers LP. And I like the way he stayed on topics. He didn't veer too far away from them. And one of the biggest topics that he focused on was his struggle as Eminem the artist, and all the different lawsuits and battles he was engaged in because of his lyrical content and the backlash that his content was getting from mostly white America, which is why I think this album is geared more towards white America, and it kind of show people the nuances of his music. But obviously Eminem does a great job connecting to everybody, and that's part of this album that I've really enjoyed, actually. I think that after spending a long time with this project, the feel of it definitely grew on me. Part of that, I think, is the versatility of the album. Like he says on Dad's Gone Crazy, he has songs that make you more motivated, that are thoughtful, that are hyped, that are angry, and overall the mix of songs kind of makes you more connected to the overall project. And I feel like just from listening to it, I have a better idea of who Eminem is as a person. I really like the way the album started out with the skit of Eminem walking out onto the stage, and I like the way that connects to Encore as well, where on Encore he shoots this people in the concert right on the stage. So both the albums really connect, and I think that's really cool, to have that parallel between those 2 albums. And I like the way the first skit goes into the first song, which is called White America, and this song is definitely a necessary song, I think, to the album. I like the subject matter. I like how tight it is, and on that respect, and I like how thoughtful Eminem is, kind of talking about his come up in the game, how overwhelmed he feels by the fame, but how he's going to push through and still do what Eminem does to this point lyrically, which is make lyrics that he feels like he wants to make that are controversial in nature, right? So Eminem says that he's going to keep dumping on it, meaning that he's going to keep putting out lyrics that are controversial no matter what people think. And I've liked this track over the months. It's a song that I still listen to from time to time, but it isn't one of my regular listens from this album, because I think it's something to do with the beat. Maybe it's just not something that's extremely ear grabbing, but I like the song. I definitely think it's necessary to have this song on the project, just to state kind of where he's going in the album. So I think it's cool. Then he goes into the song Business, which is a more up-tempo, bouncier track that has really dope punchlines. And his flow is crazy on this track. At one point he even says you're not even noticing his flow anymore because you're so used to it, because he's so dope. So both his punchlines and his flow I really like a lot from this song. And the concept is pretty cool. It's kind of almost like they're superheroes of some kind, riding through one of those old comic book cities. And I like the beat as well. The beat is crazy, how the sirens are going back and forth. And it's a song that definitely has a certain vibe to it. And if I'm looking for that up-tempo, upbeat vibe, it might be one that I'm going towards, and definitely a song that I like, definitely a song that I find interesting. And then the album goes into Cleaning Out My Closet, which I love that track. In my opinion, the lyrics on it I think are pretty introspective from Eminem, and the beat, you guys saw me react to it on that first listen, and I still feel that same way. That beat is crazy, just the way it comes in, and it's just crazy, and I saw in the comments a lot of you guys feel the same way about that Cleaning Out My Closet instrumental. Yeah, I really like it. I think his flows on the track are really good as well. It's just an overall a track that I really like. And then Square Dance, which is also one of my favorite tracks. I just like the energy of it. I think it's a lot lighter than some of the other tracks, although he is going at George Bush and cannabis, but it's still pretty fun. And now we're into Soldier. Soldier, a lot of people said on the comments below the video, is one of their favorite songs from the album, and I can definitely see that. It's a song that on subsequent listens, I get the energy that's on it, right? There's an aggression to Soldier with the beat and his vocal delivery that is extremely intense. Sort of like The Way I Am, almost, with the intenseness of the track. I like the track. It seems kind of strained or a little bit over the top to me personally, but it's one that I enjoy listening to from time to time. So yeah, I enjoy the song Soldier. I get why some of you guys have it as one of your favorite songs on the project. It definitely has that energy and that aggression to it, but yeah, that's how I kind of feel about it right now. I really like the transition from the Kiss to Soldier as well. I did catch it in the reaction on my first time. I just didn't really talk about it, how this song Soldier and Say Goodbye to Hollywood are connected to the Kiss. It kind of is its own insulated album in a way. I did catch that on my first listen, but I didn't really talk about that in my reaction. But yeah, so it's connected. I do like that the connection between Soldier and the Kiss. I think it's cool the way the beat fades into Soldier, and the topics, how he pistol whipped the bouncer, and he talks about how people are kind of blowing his involvement in the situation out of proportion, like he didn't actually do that. And number 6, Say Goodbye to Hollywood. This track, I think the lyrics are pretty interesting. I think Eminem is pretty vulnerable at points on the song where he's like, man, if I would have known this is what rapping would have looked like for me down the line, I would have never started, So I like those aspects of the track. I think that's awesome, some of the lyrics on it, and he definitely sticks to the whole Kiss theme where he talks about Kim. The beat on this track I don't like too much personally, and the hook I'm not too big of a fan of personally. I like the track, but it's not one of my favorites on the album, and it's one I go back to only rarely. And then Drips, which still to this day is one of my least favorite songs I've heard from Eminem on any of my Eminem reactions. There's really nothing about this track I like personally. If you like this track, all power to you, that's great. But for me personally, I just haven't been able to feel this track. On Without Me, I kind of feel similar to it as I do Say Goodbye to Hollywood. It's just nothing about it that grabs me, that makes you want to go back to it. It's more of a fun song. Obviously, Say Goodbye to Hollywood is a more vulnerable track when you get down to it. But I think Without Me, it kind of lacks that punch or those lyrics or something to really grab me in. So it's kind of a song I don't really listen to too much. Sing for the Moment, though, is one of my favorite tracks. Again, it's amazing. I heard it before my reaction video because I did a reaction video to the song by itself before. So I knew the song, and it's just stayed as one of my favorite songs from the project. I think lyrically this is one of his most vulnerable songs on the project, just how he takes it back to when he was a kid, brainwashed by rock and rap, like he says, and he talks about the power of words and you know, when he's gone, maybe people will remember him. Just a lot of introspective bars and lines, and you know, the guitar on the beat is going crazy. Not one of my favorite beats in terms of the mixing on it, like it doesn't seem as big. I think it's a really good track, and one of my favorites from the album. And then we go back to one of my least favorites of the album again with Superman. Again, Superman is another track like Drips. I haven't gotten into it. I just don't really like the subject matter and the beat and everything like that. It's just, you know, not a track that I really like. I like the hook. Drake remixed the hook on Dark Lane demo tapes, so it's definitely a good catchy hook. Eminem's flows throughout this whole album have been, in my opinion, like something that I've really liked on almost every track. So even on Superman, I do like his flows, but if all I like on a track is flows, then it's not a track I'm gonna go back to. You know, I gotta like some lyrics, I gotta like the message, I have to like some other things. The beat, you know, has to be up there. So for me personally, Superman isn't a track I go back to. Haley's song though is another one of my favorites from the project. Another really introspective song. I like Eminem singing on it. I like his delivery on his, you know, his vocals, on the rapping part as well, and his flows on there. And I just like the fact that he shows us that he is not Slim Shady. I like that he shows that, and I like always when he shows that, because I don't really like the Slim Shady character and what he says, you know what I mean? And it's important to me to know that Eminem is not Slim Shady. So when he did that on the Marshall Mathers LP, that's what got me connected more to that project, and same thing on this project. And I think he does that a lot on this song, and he does that throughout the album, more on this project as well. And I just like the love that he shows for his daughters. That's the main thing about this track, and the detail he goes into about his life and dealing with his daughters and his wife, and the details he goes into is crazy on this track, in my opinion. When the Music Stops is another one of my favorite tracks on this project. Everyone came with it on this track. It was crazy. Every member of D12 kind of had a different role on the track, it felt like, where Bizarre closed it out with rapping about the role of artists in telling people what they should do in a funny way. And I really like Bizarre's verse a lot more than I did on the reaction video. But everybody, I mean, Proof's verse is still crazy on this track, in my opinion, and everybody killed it. Say What I Say is, I don't like it as much as When the Music Stops or Haley's song or any of those tracks, but I think it is part of that, you know, second tier for me, where I'll go back to it once in a while. I do like the fact that Dr. Dre is on the track, and their back and forth is pretty crazy. It seems to me like Eminem wrote those bars though, because just the way they sound really Eminem-esque, you know, when Dre is rapping it. You know, I don't feel Dre's delivery nearly as much as I feel Eminem's though. I think that's one of the drawbacks of this track to me, as well as the fact that, you know, there's not that much lyrical content that I really get from it. Yeah, it's still a fun track, and I enjoy the fact that both of them are on there, and there are some cool punchlines on there, like back and forth, like Red and Meth. Till I Collapse is one of my favorite songs still on this project. His flows and delivery are crazy, and you know, it's a really motivating song, I think, for me and a lot of other people. So like he says on the track, you know, with Eminem's music, a lot of times you might hate what he's saying at times, but you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. I mean, when you have verses like, as soon as the verse starts, I cut out an MC's heart, you have to respect it. Like, you just have to. Like, those are just crazy bars, and the beat is definitely crazy too. Parts of it were sampled from Queen's We Will Rock You, which is awesome. The claps are really like anthemic, and they have a lot of reverb to it, so it gives it that big feel that's really cool and I think unique to that track. And finally, My Dad's Gone Crazy, I think is a cool closing track. Not one of my favorites from the project, like I don't go back to it that much, but it's still a track that I like, and I think it fits well where it is. I thought it was cool where he said that he wouldn't let Haley listen to him either if he was a parent. So I think Eminem really sees where the parents are coming from to some extent, because at the end of the day, Eminem is putting out the music, and the music is, I think, and Eminem recognizes it on that section, is worthy of some criticism. But it's a complicated matter, right? Because he says as well, everything he says is tongue-in-cheek. He doesn't mean it to be taken that literally, and it's for the kids. It connects more with them than to a group of older people, you know. So Eminem also makes that point as well. I like the beat on the track, and I've grown to like Haley's role on the track as well, as sort of a hype man, and I think that's kind of cool. Although it is still kind of mind-blowing to me that he put Haley on that track, which is pretty explicit in nature. But that brings me to another point about this project. Eminem is kind of going at the critics for criticizing his music and filing lawsuits against him and stuff like that. But at the same time, while he is, you know, he is facing that backlash, and that backlash is not easy to to face. Probably very, very hard. Like Eminem said, it's hard for him to hold that boulder on his shoulders, right? Like it's hard for him to face that. But he does recognize on that last track that he is sort of causing it in a way because his lyrics are so explicit. And I usually stay away from talking about, this stuff in general, but I think Eminem's music does really give us a window into how people perceive, like how people react to music like that, more explicit music and music that is in some ways insensitive. And I think that Eminem's music, like many other rap artists like Dr. Dre, Eminem does include raps that are like insensitive towards women and homosexual people. And for me, the test is that if I replace any of the words that Eminem is using with the N-word and I was a woman, or if I was a gay man and I heard those words, would I be offended by them? And I would be offended. I'd feel kind of, if I was myself in a body of those other groups of people, I would feel some sort of offense towards it. And of course, there are a lot of women that are Eminem fans, a lot of gay people who are Eminem fans, and some people can look past that and realize it. But for the average person that's just hearing these lyrics, on the radio or whatever, it might come off as offensive. So I think it's important to acknowledge that aspect of it, because we're talking about groups of people that have been subject to hate and hate crimes and stuff like that in the past. With women, it's the long extended history of people, mistreating women or not giving them opportunities, and the whole split division of household thing. And for gay people, obviously they have been persecuted throughout history, so you have to be sensitive when you're talking about these things. Eminem obviously is not, and controversy stems from that, And Eminem even acknowledged this when he talks about what he said about Tyler the Creator in Kamikaze, and he said that he offended a whole group of people by saying the F word when he said it. And I think the same thing can be said to some of the homophobic slangs that Eminem uses on the Marshall Mathers LP and on the Relapse. And it's not only Eminem, it's a lot of hip hop artists that do that. And not all hip hop artists, there are hip hop artists that stay away and don't engage in that type of speech, but there are a few that do. But simultaneously, I think why Eminem gets a little bit more backlash is because his music, unlike a lot of other hip hop artists, is actually centered around the shock value. And I think it's important for us to kind of acknowledge that this is prevalent in hip hop, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. And I say that as someone who listens to hip hop all the time. But I think as a hip hop community, we should acknowledge the fact that there is some insensitivity in some of the artist's lyric, and it is something that's there. As listeners, as fans of the genre, we sometimes look past it because we are so desensitized to it, because we listen to the music and we can see the true meanings behind the lyrics, or we can see where this person has came from, or we can see where this is coming from. It might not be hateful, but from a larger perspective, I think you have to acknowledge that it is kind of insensitive, or at least it can be perceived as that way. So we have to be sensitive to that and acknowledge that that is part of some of the genre, and people have the right to be angry about it, at least in my opinion. All right, cool. So now I'm gonna talk about some of the comments, some of the questions that have been posted beneath the reaction video, and kind of give my reply in a spoken way. Colorado said, I think the reason this album feels different compared to the ones before are the fact that he does most of the production beats in the album. Combine that to the fact that he seems to be more honest about himself in this album. And funnily enough, even if this album is called The Eminem Show, there's more Marshall Mathers in this album than the one named as such. And I think that's true. I think that is one of the reasons why I was kind of blindsided by the differences on this album on that first listen, because the production, does feel different. It does feel like a different breed of production, if I can say that. Some points it does, but some points it doesn't feel like the production is hitting me as hard as the Marshall Mathers LP. So maybe that is why. Maybe it's that Eminem, is doing the production himself and he approaches it differently, or he may not be, as familiar with the intricacies of it as a Dr. Dre. He said combine that with the fact that Eminem is being more honest. Well, I think, yeah, that is also a big difference, right? Because on the Marshall Mathers LP, I think Eminem was pretty honest, but I think the honesty, in my opinion, came more below the surface, right? You have to read more into the album to see the honesty in it. And I think in this album, Eminem is more honest, forthright. Like he is more like, okay, this is what I'm facing. These are the criticisms against me. This is what is going on, and this is how I feel about it. a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and a lot of pushback against it from Eminem himself on this project. Brian Withia said, I know you said the album surprised you and it was a roller coaster. How would you rate the album? It did surprise me just from the fact that I think the beats gave it a different feel. The production wasn't as gritty, wasn't as grimy as the Marshall Mathers LP, and it wasn't as lighthearted in feel, I think. And that's why, especially on the first listen, it was kind of a roller coaster where, you know, I didn't know where it was gonna go, you know, because there were songs like Drips that on first listen I didn't really feel. And even the song like Soldier, I at first listen didn't really feel as much as I do now. So I would say now it's less of a roller coaster than it was originally, although it still is in the fact that I feel like Eminem goes through a lot of different subject matter, and it could be split into like 3 different albums. In one album talking about, you know, his struggles as Eminem, one about his relationship with Kim, and one about his daughter. In a way, those are kind of like 3 of the biggest themes. So, and in terms of rating the album, I'm gonna kind of rank it in the next segment, and this is just my own opinion, guys. Like I said before, Mario Profka asked, you kept saying you were waiting for that crazy song. What exactly did you expect? Again, like I think it has something to do with the production. On that first listen, I didn't feel very connected to the project, and I think on subsequent listens, I think his delivery is what kind of cuts through, and I kind of feel that a little bit more than I did on my first listen. But I kind of expected, I think, an album that wasn't as, I think, didn't come off as serious as this one comes off, because once it comes off more serious, then I have to take everything you're saying a little bit more seriously. You get what I'm saying? So it's like I have to go back and forth between, okay, when is he being serious, Slim Shady, and when is he not now? You know what I mean? So, and as for what I was waiting for, that crazy song, the songs on here are great, you know, like Sing for the Moment and Cleaning Out My Closet, and all the songs that I talked about earlier there's a lot of great songs on here. So my opinion has really changed since that first listen. I think they are, you know, crazy songs on this project. The songs are just different than they were on the Marshall Mathers LP. All right, so let's get into the ranking or comparison part of the video. You know, I try and celebrate the artist, and this is just a way for me to do it while also, you know, having fun and comparing my thoughts on different albums. So yeah, it's more of a journal and me kind of writing down, okay, I like this a little bit more than I like this. In the category of lyrical creativity, which is basically how creative do I think the actual lyrics are that you're writing, in my own opinion, you know, from my perspective. At number 5, I had ATLiens by Outkast. At number 4, I had KOD by J. Cole. At number 3, I had Mood Music 1 by Joe Budden. At number 2, I had The Eminem Show by Eminem. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem. I had the Eminem Show at number 2 because I felt like the way Eminem approached his punchlines and how he was rapping was, you know, different than a lot of other people. I thought it was pretty creative. It was different than Mood Music 1, where the way Joe did it. Joe was also really slick with his punchlines and metaphors and stuff like that, but it was different. I thought, you know, that Eminem did a really good job staying creative as well on this album with his punchlines. I thought it was really cool. To me, his writing really made me feel connected to some of the songs that he was writing from an emotional place as well. For the message category, which is how much did the artist stay on message, that whatever message he wanted to convey, and how much did I really like how he did that? You know, how much did I like how he navigated what he had to say? At the number 5 spot, I had ATLiens. At the number 4 spot, I had the Eminem Show. At the number 3 spot, I had Mood Music 1. At the number 2 spot, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. And at the number 1 spot, I had KOD. I had the Eminem Show at number 4. And if I look at it, you know, comparatively to the Marshall Mathers LP, I felt like while Eminem's messages on the Eminem Show were definitely more varied, and he definitely, what I love about music, one of the things that I love is how you can go really personal with it and you can talk about what's going on in your life. And I think he did that more in the Eminem Show. But the overall creativity of the message that Eminem was putting out in the Marshall Mathers LP, which was very similar to the one he was putting out in the Eminem Show, but I felt like he did it in a way that was a little slicker in the Marshall Mathers LP, where he was talking about people criticizing his music in the Marshall Mathers LP, but he did so in a very lighthearted way that was crazy. You know, under the table, you could tell he wasn't being serious because he was so outlandish on that album that it kind of created a really creative album, you know, in the way he did it on every track, was crazy. So I think I kind of prefer that to the overall message of the Eminem show. And I like the fact that he had a lot of individual messages on a lot of the tracks as well on the Eminem show. So it was definitely really cool, and I really appreciated the Eminem show and the messages. I liked a lot of them. Sing for the Moment, Crazy, you know, Cleaning Out My Closet, even songs like Soldier and White America. There were a lot of different messages dispersed, but I think the Eminem show definitely had really cool messages and a cool overall message as well. And the Eminem show could also be number one, but I decided, you know, that was the best order for me. And I switched KOD and the Marshall Mathers LP around because I felt like, I don't know, I just kind of felt like KOD was, I'd be doing it a disservice if I didn't have it at number one in the message category, because that's what it's most centered around, is the message. So I felt like, man, you know, I really should change that to KOD at number one and the Marshall Mathers LP at number two. Even though I did like the overall message of the Marshall Mathers LP, the overall message of KOD was also great, and the single song messages were also great. I think a little better than the Marshall Mathers LP in terms of like directly approaching things, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's definitely really close. All of these categories are really close, but that's why I kind of made that switch. In terms of the beats on the project, at number 5 I had KOD. At number 4, I had New Music 1 by Joe Budden. At number 3, I had The Eminem Show. At number 2, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. And at number 1, still there, I had ATLiens. At number 3, I had The Eminem Show, and I really liked, you know, the beats. They grew on me after, you know, after some listens, and I thought they were really unique. You know, they definitely had, I think, a less punchy feel to them at some point. Some of them were pretty punchy, like Business and Soldier, but they definitely had, I think, overall, like a less punchy feel. And on songs like White America, there's definitely more of a rock feel to them. Even on songs like Sing for the Moment, like that guitar is going crazy on that track. So there's definitely a lot of different, I think, influences going into this album, and I think that makes it an interesting listen, for sure. And it at points gets you engaged into the album as well, and definitely a really unique listen, and kind of creates an insulated world for the Eminem Show. And it was a struggle for me for this segment whether I should put it before or after New Music 1, because I really do like the world created in that album as well, with the beats and how much they really match Joe's delivery and his lyrics and personal lyrics and what he's talking about on that album. But I put it ahead, and it was the tiebreaker to me was the fact that Joe used the Sing for the Moment instrumental on New Music 1, his mixtape. So that was kind of the tiebreaker to me. But the Eminem Show, I thought the instrumentals were really good. Some of them I wasn't as big of a fan of as others, but I liked it. You know, I enjoyed the instrumentals, and yeah. As for the production, which I define as how well the album flowed together and how well kind of things were placed in the album, in my own opinion, you know, from my own listening experience. At number 5, I had Mood Music 1 by Joe Budden. At number 4, I had The Eminem Show. At number 3, I had KOD. At number 2, I had ATLiens. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. The production on the Eminem Show I thought was crazy, because I really liked the way that the album started with White America. I thought it was a really good introduction to what Eminem was going to be talking about. And I really liked the way the album closed as well with Dad's Gone Crazy. And I liked the skits as well. I thought Eminem's voice acting on the skit, The Kiss, was super cool. And I liked the way it connected to the other songs around it. But I felt like the album was a little bit, you know, disconnected, where it could have been, you know, like 3 different albums with 3 different, you know, topics, sort of, with the overarching one still being present throughout the whole thing. But still, like, you know, I felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect between some of the points of the album, some of the songs. The next category is consistency, and I kind of define consistency as, you know, how consistent was the album with songs that I really like. At number 5, I had New Music 1. At number 4, I had The Eminem Show. At number 3, I had KOD. At number 2, I had ATLiens. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. There are a lot of songs on this project I really like, and there's songs I didn't like as much, but I thought were really cool as well. And there were only 2 songs that, you know, if it was me who is making the album, not Eminem, which there's a reason why Eminem's in where he is, in a place where he is, because he's a great rapper, and, you know, he knows what songs to put in albums and whatnot too. But if it was me, you know, I would probably have taken out a couple of the tracks, maybe Drips and Superman, and maybe one more for concepts, which I think of as how cool is the concept of the album itself. At number 5, I had Moon Music 1. At number 4, I had the Eminem Show. At number 3, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. At number 2, I had AT Aliens, and at number 1, I had KOD. The Eminem Show's concept I thought was really cool. Even the cover art I think is really cool and kind of matches the show concept really well. And his delivery as well on the album is very exaggerated and very theatrical in a way. And I think that has to do with the fact that Eminem is trying to put on a show. The concept of the album is kind of centered around that, you know, that Eminem is sort of in a Truman Show-like state where he feels like he's always being watched and always being criticized. And I think that concept is pretty cool, you know, and I like how almost every aspect of this album ties around that whole concept. As for flows, which is how much did I like the flows used on the album, at number 5 I had Moon Music 1. At number 4 I had KOD. At number 3 I had AT Aliens. At number 2 I had the Marshall Mathers LP. And at number 1, I had the Eminem Show. So the Eminem Show got number 1 in this category. I thought his flows were crazy. At so many points in this album, I think, you know, his flows just had that wow factor to me where I was like, man, that's crazy how he did that. And I think, you know, the Marshall Mathers LP was a little bit different where it was like, I thought his flows just matched what he was saying and how he was saying it really well. Like there was nothing that I personally, you know, would have changed on it. And AT Aliens as well, which could easily be the number 1 spot, had flows that were just so intricate as well. And so I think boundary pushing for the time as well. So it's like all 3 of these projects have really awesome flows, but I decided to put the Eminem Show at number 1 just because there, I think, were more of those wow moments to me than on the Marshall Mathers LP, and I thought they were more of those wow moments as well than AT Aliens, even though on AT Aliens their flow was like crazy, you know, every song, but it's really close. I ended up going with the Eminem Show. In the category of delivery, which is how much I like the vocal delivery on the album, at number 5 I had AT Aliens. At number 4 I had KOD. At number 3, I had Mood Music 1. At number 2, I had the Eminem Show. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. Like all of these categories it's so close between all these albums because these albums are all great. But I thought with Eminem's delivery on the Eminem Show, I thought it was crazy, you know, how technical Eminem's delivery was on the album and how, you know, on point it was. And how strained his vocal delivery really was. And it was very over the top and very energetic, you know, was very angry at certain points or whatever the case. And, you know, the Eminem Show definitely just his skill with using his voice as an instrument and how he even does vocal skits and he does different things is pretty incredible on the Eminem Show. So I think it's very different than Moon Music 1, which I thought Joe's delivery matched the album concept and the beats very well. And I really felt him a lot on that album because of his vocal delivery. So I think I like the vocal deliveries on both of those albums for 2 different reasons. So it was hard for me to really, like it is for all of these, to pick between those 2 projects and delivery. Another category is versatility. At number 5, I had KOD. At number 4, I had AT Aliens. At number 3, I had Mood Music 1. At number 2, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. And at number 1, I had the Eminem Show. And I had the Eminem Show as the most versatile album to me personally because Eminem does cover a lot of different ground on this project. Like he says on Dad's Gone Crazy, he has songs like Sing for the Moment and Cleaning Out My Closet. And he also has songs like When the Music Stops and Soldier. And it's just a lot of different emotions that get evoked on different tracks on this project. So I think that's really cool how Eminem was able to really balance that and form one whole project out of it, and that's really awesome how he was able to do that. While I think on the Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem's focus was more on almost one message, that it wasn't as versatile in terms of songs that are more personal. The Marshall Mathers LP I felt like overall had a more singular aura than the Eminem Show did. The next category is connection, which I basically define as my overall connection to the project. And at number 5, I had AT Aliens. At number 4, I had the Eminem Show. At number 3, I had KOD. At number 2, I had Moon Music 1. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. And I feel a connection to all of these albums for different reasons. For example, the Marshall Mathers LP, I don't necessarily connect with his lyrics as much as I do the Moon Music 1, but with that album I just feel like the whole album as a concept and the way it was put together is just brings me in, you know what I mean? And when it comes to Moon Music 1, it's a connection based on what he's saying and how connected I feel to Joe Budden and the lyrics that he's putting out. And with the Eminem Show, which I had at number 3, I think it's a mix of both, because I felt like he did do a good job bringing me into the album and making me more connected with Eminem, with Marshall Mathers, as more like on a personal level in a way, but also I felt like his skill level was really high on this project as well. So I thought it was a good mix of both on this project. And as for the category of creation, which is how much did the artist actually participate in the creation of this album, at number 5 I had Mood Music 1. At number 4 I had 18 Aliens. At number 3 I had the Marshall Mathers LP. At number 2 I had the Eminem Show. And at number 1 I had KOD. KOD and the Eminem Show were really close in terms of, what Eminem and what J. Cole did in terms of creating the whole project. The deciding factor to me was that J. Cole was listed as an executive producer for the project, along with Gretchen, while Eminem was not listed as an executive producer for the Eminem Show. No doubt he had a really large role in the project, which is why he's given so many song credits, even so many solo song credits in terms of production. Jeff Bass, Mark Bass, and Dr. Dre are the executive producers, so no doubt they also had a large role to play in the production of the album. So I don't know, it was just really close, and the deciding factor to me was that I saw J. Cole as the executive producer for KOD. And the last category I have is impact. At number 5, I had Mood Music 1. At number 4, I had KOD. At number 3, I had 18 Aliens. At number 2, I had the Eminem Show. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP. 18 Aliens, the Eminem Show, and the Marshall Mathers LP all could be number 1. Like on a lot of these different categories, like I said, it's hard to really choose, but I feel like the volume of sales from the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show is hard to overcome for 18 Aliens, because 18 Aliens sold copies wise in the single digits of the millions, and the Eminem Show and the Marshall Mathers LP have sold upwards of 20 million copies. So there's a big enough gap there where I think that the impact of the Marshall Mathers LP worldwide is probably bigger than 18 Aliens, although there's no doubt in my mind that 18 Aliens also had a huge impact creatively in hip-hop and worldwide as well with their unique style. So there's definitely, in my own opinion, from my listen, there's definitely a clear case to be made for all of them for that number 1 spot there. And KOD as well, it's a newer album, you never know in the future what might happen with it. So I think that album is great obviously as well, so the impact of that one might rise. And Mood Music 1, it's a mixtape and there's not much statistics on it, but from my understanding it would be the least impactful out of all of them, but definitely with its role in mental health and expression, it definitely has a huge impact as well. But so that's it, guys. I have yet to actually compile the points together, so I'm gonna do that and come back and tell you guys the final score. I waited because I don't want any bias to kind of leak into my albums, and I've done that the last few times where I calculate the score after I do the video. So I'm gonna go calculate the score and then I'll be right back. All right, so all the points are finally tallied. And how my point system usually works is the album with the most amount of points comes in last, and the album with the least amount of points comes in first. All right, so the album with the most amount of points at number 5 is Mood Music 1 with 48 points. Still an awesome album, but it just came in last in this ranking video. At number 4, I had 18 Aliens with 41 points. At number 3, I had KOD with 39 points. At number 2, I had the Eminem Show with 32 points. And at number 1, I had the Marshall Mathers LP once again with 20 points. And that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And I'll be back with another video soon about Encore and my changing experiences with that album as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.